So I had an awakening at 54 years old during a point of being at my rock bottom. I had no idea what had happened to me. I just knew that something inside me had shifted. Hi, I'm Leigh Ann, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I Say This With Love 33. This is my experience a few years back that I had no idea what had happened, that it was going to happen, or how it was going to significantly change my life for the better. Back in 2022, I was at a very dark space in my life and completely dead inside. I was not happy. I was unable to feel that. I was unable to admit that. I was unable to figure out what's wrong with my world and inside of me. I had spent a lot of years that way, just completely numb and just going on day by day like a robot. And this one specific day, it finally caught up and my soul said, enough is enough. It was, like I said, back in 2022, and I was getting ready to go to a princess party for my granddaughter. Some things took place and the situation became unhealthy, a little toxic, and it had been going on for, 5 or 6 minutes, and I was having my back turned, and all of a sudden I just felt the top of my head open up gently, slowly, and a warm rush of peace just flowed out and went down my head, down my shoulders, all the way to my feet. And I heard the words, "You will never have to do this again." I had no idea what I just heard, what just happened to me, but I felt so much peace and safety and love, and that allowed me to remove myself from that situation and go into another room and continue on with what I had been doing. Finally, after the years that I spent with shame and fear and guilt and being so scared of oh my gosh, what did I just do? I'm such a bad person and I am not okay and I'm going to go to hell and I need to go to church and pray and all these things weren't there. I had not one of those sensations or feelings inside my body. And to be perfectly honest, that's the first time in my life that I ever allowed myself to feel. And that was just the beginning. That was just barely scratching the surface. So I was able to drive to that birthday party and have on my Cinderella dress and show up to that party with my chin up and my shoulders back and just feeling like I am filled with peace and I'm okay and I'm safe and everything's going to be okay. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just know something's different this time. To see the little kids' faces, to look at a Cinderella princess and bring them joy and little smiles on their face. And then also at the same time to know what I had just experienced in that day, a couple hours before that, probably the worst moment of my life, but then also the best moment of my life, was beautiful. And I look back at that time and I just think wow, everything happens just perfectly the way it's supposed to and the time that it's supposed to, and what a beautiful time. So I was able to go through that day and have no fear and no overthinking in my brain, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What's wrong with me? My husband is not happy with me, and all these things that blah, 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 that go on inside your brain. I didn't have that. The next day I went to breakfast with my daughter and she's like, "Mom, so what happened? What's going on?" Because this wasn't the first time that, an event like that might have taken place. And I said, I don't know, but I know something's different. And I didn't know, and I didn't try to force the feeling of knowing, and I didn't try to force what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I just allowed myself to say you know what? I need some space, and just allow myself to fall into line of what was going to be coming to happen, all within divine timing. I went to work the next day. I was looking up my stuff on YouTube of like, what's wrong with me? And I believe I talked about this in a prior video. I got to a point of this awakening that I had so many like aha moments of like, whoa, this happened because of this. And this was a lesson that I needed to learn. So throughout the past 3 years of unraveling all this stuff that has been coming up and just graciously been like rolled out in front of me and basically like handed to me from God or the universe, my higher self, is so beautiful. I started with accepting who I am and rebuilding myself to understand and know that like I'm not a bad person, I'm not an asshole, I'm not going to hell. And I slowly started to rebuild myself throughout meditation, throughout my practice of yoga. That was new, and I will talk about that in another video. That was a huge, huge aspect of my healing. Unbelievable. I began to become less judgmental towards everything and every person around me. I started to become more observant of myself, my own feelings, the students I was teaching. I became a person that started to feel like, I always thought I was doing pretty good in life, and I had my husband and I had my 2 healthy kids and I had homes and I had cars and I had all the things that the world tells you that you need to have in order to have fulfillment and be happy. But I wasn't happy at all inside for many years. A lot of years I was content, but for many years I'd say I wasn't. I knew something was up. I felt like there was something deeper that I needed to chip away at myself to get to, but I didn't understand that at that time. And that's okay. That's all in divine timing. But I was able to finally like put down my knight in shining armor, maybe, that I thought of myself as, because I did everything for everybody and I held up this perfect facade of got to be strong, you got to keep pushing forward, you just got to go, like everything's fine. Don't live in the past and don't think that, if you have feelings, just push them down and go forward, because that's the only way you're going to make it in life, because that's what I had learned early on in my life. And that's what I had told myself. And that's basically was my coping mechanism throughout my childhood. And then I carried that into my adulthood, into my marriage, and all the rest of the years. So all the things that I was just masking and going through life performing so that everybody would think, Leigh's good. She's got it going on. She's got everything. Look how happy she is. Woo! That was so far off. So anyway, I want to say that the spiritual journey, the spiritual awakening, and I didn't know it was a spiritual awakening until much later on in my healing journey. And it brought me the awareness that, I'm going to start questioning everything. Like I have a hunger and a quest for the truth. As a kid, we'd be driving to church and I would see big billboards back in the 70s that would say like, Jesus is coming, are you ready? And I would have so much fear in my heart and in myself as a little kid, like, oh my God, he's coming. Like yesterday I stole a piece of candy and now he's not going to love me. Or I fought with my sister and my mom said I'm not supposed to fight or God won't be happy. And all the things that just keep getting propelled and taught and generationally, and then it's going all the way down the chute to every person that's born into the family. Like I had so much fear about that when I had the spiritual awakening and learned and understood and accepted that feeling of my crown chakra opening and my heart, I'm coming back to myself to love myself and to figure out who I am, to heal my inner child. 3 years ago, I didn't even know what an inner child was. You could have said that to me and I would have been like, what the heck is an inner child? Like, that's weird. Now I'm living my life daily of understanding that if one wants to make it to the higher self and that place of light and no fear, no guilt, no shame, you have to do some really deep and a little bit dark work of going inside and healing that inner child. It is in with all of us, within our subconscious. It is like down into our bones and our joints and all the things inside that we don't even know. Like, you make certain choices, you repeat certain patterns. You don't understand why, like, this is happening, but you keep calling in the same thing and the same things keep happening. Well, those are lessons. Those are lessons from your higher self in the universe, seeing if you've learned that lesson and you're ready to move forward. Me, being a hard learner, no, it took me 54 years of hard life lessons. Like, I have mastered significant, deep, hard, dark life lessons that I now know I called in before I came here to this beautiful little marble of blue and green. But to learn it and to understand it from a different perspective and to lose the chains of fear, guilt, and shame that have been placed upon all of us through society, religion, parents, teachers, the TV, like everything is just all about keeping you chained inside and live a certain way and look a certain way and be a certain way so that you can't be your own individual self, your highest self, who you came to this earth to be, because that's a dangerous place for the society and all the things that take your money and put the control over you. I had feelings for a lot of years about, I don't like the news. It's so dark. It's so just disgusting to listen to all the bullshit that they project. What about all the goodness in life? Why don't they ever put on there like all the things that people do for loving each other and helping each other? And then people would say, well, because, that doesn't sell and they have to get high ratings and they have to sell all their products. And I'm like, that's not cool. And I actually stopped listening to the news and watching TV years before my spiritual awakening ever took place. I'm going to go backtrack a little bit. And 3 years ago when I had my spiritual awakening and I didn't know what it was, and it was at a significant point in my life of change, and my whole expectation and dynamic of everything that I had created was about to just implode. My niece had sent me a natal birth chart for my birthday. My birthday was a month after this awakening took place. Now, how all of a sudden, after all these years of her being my niece, did I get a natal birth chart just out of the blue? Okay, like, that's divine. I didn't know how to read it. I didn't know what it meant. As I started to read through it, I was like, oh God, that kind of sounds like me, but like, this is really deep astrology stuff. Like, this is not anything that I'm aware of or know about, because my whole life I'm like, we don't dabble in that. That's woo-woo. That's weird. That has nothing to do with reality here on earth. No, thank you. I'll never do that. Well, here I am with my never say never again. I read it. I started to feel some of the things that it had talked about. And as the months went by and I would be a little bit deeper into my healing journey and understand a little more and listen to podcasts and people talking, I would talk to my sister and be like, what does this mean? Like, I don't understand. Then I received my numerology chart. And again, that's a no-no, like, that's a sin. That was in my brain and my mind. Oh, what is that? That's like the devil. That's like you're worshiping Satan if you're into numerology. Well, I got that and didn't understand anything, and then researched it and looked into it and asked about it and learned about it with an open mind and an open heart. Holy moly, like, that is the grail of every person's life here on this earth, your natal birth chart and your numerology. And I'm 3 years into it, and I can honestly say, like, I wish everybody at some point in their life could understand how dynamic, how important, how it can take you back to yourself and understand who you are, why you make the choices you make, where the stars were aligned when you were born, you know, like this, the sun, the moon, and all the things that it means, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Like, it goes so deep. And I'm going to have a part 2 on this video because it's going to have so much information and take so much time to go deep into it. But I just want to say that my spiritual awakening was the best thing that ever happened to me. And my soul was finally like looking at me like, move, bitch, get out of the driving seat. I'm taking over now. And since that point, life has been so beautiful. So anyway, I will continue this in part 2. Thank you for visiting. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I say this with love, 33.